Welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Matt Hankins. This podcast is geared towards the modern man. We will explore men's health across all four aspects of life: mental, physical, spiritual, and social. I'll be drawing from our Montana communities for people with unique perspectives and methods for maintaining balance in an increasingly chaotic world. It's tough being a man in a changing world, but with effort and knowledge, we can thrive rather than just survive. If you like what you hear, hit the like button and subscribe. We're currently seeking sponsors to help cover production costs and guests who have something to share with our listeners about becoming the man we want to be. Today's theme is giving back to our communities. In the digital age, among the people I've spoken with, I believe many of us feel a lack of belonging and ownership in our communities. It's easy to be plagued by distractions and complacency and ease of life. But there's so many ways to get involved and find your passion in the community. Is it with kids or teens? Is it with our aging population? Resources are abundant, and nonprofits rarely decline volunteers, even on short-term basis. From Meals on Wheels to delivering warm clothes to the unhoused, there are socially relevant programs that can easily fill your bucket while doing good in the community. The best parts are the people you help and the friends you make along the way, too. If one organization is not what you hope for, there are others out there, so keep helping until you find a fit. Remember, the most valuable asset you have is your time. So, how are you spending your time? On the show today, we have Craig Sundberg. Thank you for coming in and talking with me. I really appreciate you coming and talking again. I enjoyed our last conversation. It was a good time sitting around and having a conversation with you.
Yeah, it was a little short, and I'm hoping we can expand on a lot of things and help some people out along the way. That's what life's all about.
So I just want to ask you a real basic question. How are things in your world right now?
Things are good. I mean, I enjoy what I do. I got a good family. I've had a nice broad life. I guess to put it easiest with my wife. I mean, we live in a nice house, and bus stops in front, picks up the kids.
So I noticed that you ran for office at one point. How did you decide to give back to the community by running for office?
I grew up in a very civic-minded family. That goes my mom's side, my dad's side. Unions were very strong in the Butte-Anaconda area, and they all had their opinions. They were very vocal about it. My grandmother and great-grandmother on my mom's side both went to business college in the 1940s, which was unheard of. And so it's pretty hard in my family overall to not sit down, not want to go forward.
Kind of hard to avoid the subject when everybody's interested.
Everybody's into it. I mean, and it created the big, and I think that was kind of common in those, when we grew up in the 70s and even the 80s. There's people are pretty big at the dinner table and pretty vocal. Unfortunately, my grandmother ended up becoming secretary, but she ended up running a credit union. I mean, retired in the retired late 60s doing that. I mean, that's something that doesn't happen for women back then.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive for a lady back then to have a pretty high profile job like that. My grandma was a reporter for the Modesto Bee, but cool. Once she met my grandfather rodeoing, they had to quit because she wanted to have a baby. And so once you get pregnant, you're not allowed to work anymore back in those days. So it is impressive to hear that your grandma was able to kind of forward that and retire from a business like a bank.
Yeah, and she, the sad thing was she'd always just say, "I'm just a glorified secretary." She always kind of kept in her place, unfortunately. But it was still an important thing. On the other side of the family, to expand upon what you said, my grandmother had always wanted to be a writer. She grew up in the highline of Montana, and there wasn't much going on there. But back then, you could be, work as a nurse or a secretary, and she got stuck. And then, of course, she ended up working just with our cattle and being a classic homemaker. And I don't think that that's something that anybody should look down on either, because Montana women are known for being strong and independent, and Grandpa walked on nails when he walked through that door.
Yeah, I know that about my grandpa too. Pretty fascinating, yeah.
That's pretty Montana.
So I was kind of curious. Politics is pretty polarized right now, and it seems like you ran as a Democrat. Is that correct? You ran as a Democrat.
Yeah, I did, and that was actually my first experiment really with the Democrats. I think that their ideology best fit mine at the time. It's also, when you run for office, you have to have support. And I called the Libertarians, nobody ever got back to me. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to the Green Party, and they're so small, there's nothing but to get funding and do things. It's really difficult to do it without one of the two parties supporting you.
That's so true. So when the Democrats did decide to support you, did you get any funds or any help from them at all?
So they didn't really do anything. You're able to, and I just ran it for the legislature, for Congress, and the House, I guess you should say, they don't really do anything. You're just kind of there, and you just show up. And I never made it past the primary. I didn't do very well. I did a lot of door knocking, and I was told before that running against a woman in Montana, especially as a Democrat, can be very hard. And I ran against a woman. She's a nice woman. She represented us well, I think, Mary Caferno, but she. I put a lot of effort in, and I don't think that she put that effort in, but she won, and that's okay.
Are you going to seek a position again in the next election?
I think it's very likely. I don't know where I should land. I'd like to go big, the bigger the better, but I realize you have to get your name out there. You got to have support. I mean, one thing I learned from my previous attempt is doing it by myself, at least for me, wasn't possible. You got to have, you got to have a treasurer, and I had a treasurer who really didn't do a whole bunch, and you need people there to be there for you. So you need to focus on doing what you're doing. You need people that are willing to get your message out and look at you and see what you're about. And I'm pretty, I want to be clear. I had to pick a party, but I'm pretty broad-minded. I'm pretty independent, and I'm pretty broad-minded.
Yeah, in our previous discussions, it seemed that you have your own opinions about things, and you're not going to let one party or another decide your opinion, and you're going to try to represent the people, which kind of is one of the reasons why I asked you here today, because we are talking about giving back to your community. So how do you fill that role for your family, giving back to the community, to be a strong male role model working in the community to help others?
Number one thing I do is I just stop and I talk to people. And I don't care what they're doing. I will stop and I'll talk to them. And I especially talk to the people that don't get representation they need. And those are the janitors. I see someone sweeping the floor, mopping the floor. I always make sure I thank them. Your cashiers, your common people. I mean, we matter. And I think one of the cool things about my world travels is, in Europe, especially in Denmark, where I spent a fair amount of time, is they celebrate the worker. It's very important. In America, I told you this before. I mean, if you're not working, you're lazy, and if you are working, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah, that's so true. And you mentioned earlier that the unions were big in your family, and your family were union supporters. I'm guessing, being in Anaconda with the mines there.
They were, and I mean that's the good and the bad. My dad was had some problems. He was gassed in '72, I believe it was, on the smelter, and the union didn't represent him like they should have. Mm-hmm. I've been a Teamster, and I didn't get any representation. I think unions can be a great thing. It's like anything. I guess the best saying I've heard is a union's only as good as the people in it and as active as they are. Mm. And I think that's the same rings true with our government right now. And when things get polarized, people forget that you have to be active. You have to be making those phone calls. One of the most inspirational people to me, who's somebody I never agreed with at all, was Conrad Burns. I don't know who did it, if it was him, but I used to get in snail mail arguments with him. Mm. And I always appreciated it. This is why you're wrong. This is why I'm where I'm at. And I'd get a couple of replies, and then it'd be the same thing. I'm heading to Washington. I can't reply anymore. But I appreciated being the only politician that ever took the time, whether or not it was somebody's cabinet or him, to actually physically write me genuinely instead of the typical
chain letter
that I get from everybody else. And I'm still very vocal, but I'm getting kind of beat down like everyone. I think we don't feel like we're being listened to.
Yeah, the form letters I've noticed when I have written to my representatives, it's auto pinned. It's always the same exact letter from almost any office. We'll take your concerns under consideration.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I've also noticed, and this is just a personal observation, that some of our representatives want to do these virtual town halls, but then they don't necessarily want to answer all the questions that are coming in. I personally was cut off in the middle of a question and hung up on during one of the town halls, and it was a little off-putting. I'd like to see my representatives more often. Do you think that you would come to the community more often and talk to people?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been in a handful of I guess you could say peaceful protests. I mean, I went out and um, as you see from the picture I texted you, I mean, I'm a hunter. I teach hunter's ed. That's my big civic contribution, and I don't let people argue about whether hunting is ethical or not because you live in Montana and you're going to be exposed to a firearm. That's it.
Whether it's ethical or not, it
Well,
is around.
yeah, I
So
mean, especially kids are going to go to a house and there's going to be a gun there, and you want to make sure that they know how to react, how to handle it, what to do, and about there's a fair amount of our students that their parents put them through just for the gun safety, which is what we all focus on.
I used to hunt quite a bit, and it's just not for me. But I would never ever expect somebody to not hunt because I don't. It seems repugnant to me to force your ideas on somebody else.
And that's kind of the key. I mean, that's something that I do. I mean, when you asked if I would go and reach out, I did. I mean, I went to dare I say it, an anti-gun protest, and I told them I was just there to talk because I don't think what we're doing is working.
Right.
And that's all I wanted to do. I said, look, I'm a gun owner, and this is why I think owning a gun is positive. I'd love to see trap leagues in school. I know some places are doing that, and I think it's good. Have firearms out there in a positive manner. Learn how kids to. This is what you can use it for, and I think that'd be a good positive thing. And yeah, I mean, I like going to that stuff. I like to talk to people. I like to reach across the aisle and see what's going on and see what's in their head.
Yeah. And things aren't going away, so we have to learn how to use them safely, and we have to learn how to protect other people from the things that we have.
Sure, per capita, I don't want to get sidetracked on it, but I mean, I guess we're kind of there, but per capita, the United States has more firearms than any other country on earth. Mm-hmm. And Yemen, I believe, might be above it, and it's not like Yemen's a shining example. But I think that we can do good. I mean, we can ban them all we want. They're not going to go away. And so how do we create a safe environment for everyone? Because kids should be able to go to school.
Yes.
People should be able to go to the mall.
What are your plans for the future, non-political? How are you going to stay active in your community other than in the
I'm going to I'm going to stay teaching hunter safety. I work big with my kids to, if we drive by and we see a homeless person, which I don't think anybody should be hungry or homeless in America, that's something we should talk about. It should always be on the table. We should always be talking about that, but nobody should be hungry. Nobody should be homeless in this country. That's a ridiculous assertion. But I always tell my kids, that we don't know the situation of why that person is where they're at. I think one of the most terrifying statistics I just learned is 60%, and that's a pretty rough figure, but about 60% of people who are homeless were once foster kids, and they just don't have any place to go back to. And I think most of us, I mean, I had to go move back in with my parents a couple times with failed relationships, and
I did too. In my 20s, I was back with my folks, and I think it's more and more common now to see that. But yeah, the homelessness situation, especially where I'm at in Billings, has hit a crescendo, and it seems like it's more likely that we want to bust them away from us than we want to help them find housing and find sustainable food sources.
Yeah, and I mean that's always a problem. Kicking people to the curb doesn't need to happen. I don't think it's that difficult. I think United Way is trying to buy that hotel off of Prospect, and I don't know where that's going with donations. I don't know. They're not getting enough donations for it, but I think it's a good try. I know Missoula has done some things, and everyone's criticizing them. I'm like, well, but they're trying.
Yeah.
How do we build off of that? And again, I think it's great to always be having that discussion, but if you're only complaining, you're not offering a solution, then you're just complaining.
Well, I got to tell you, Craig, you're a super fascinating guy. I love talking to you. One last big question. What kind of wisdom would you impart on our younger generations of men? I know a lot of men have a lack of mentorship. They have a lack of socialization, and they're often on their screens a lot. What would you say to these boys that are only getting their mentorship off of screens?
Life's is what you make of it. You get out of life what you put into it. Not all people who have been great were dealt a good hand. And that's not to say that you'll succeed, but you don't get anywhere if you don't try. Teddy Roosevelt said, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. And I think people need to understand is it's okay to be yourself. I mean, I am very blessed. I don't worry so much about what people think about me. I just kind of do my own thing. Cause in the end, it's you.
Amen, brother.
And I think for the young people, I mean, they need to screen time affects us all. I'm guilty. I spend too much time looking at my phone, looking at the computer to see what's going on, and it's dangerous because it's easy to fall into a trap. It's easy to be. I mean, are you talking to a real human? We don't even know all the time anymore. And I think the people, I think one of the best thing I did, I've talked about this earlier with you, is when I took off to backpack Europe, I just quit my job and left. And I think that that's something that people need to do to see there's a big world out there. And I learned that people generally are pretty kind and going to help you. And it gives you a sense of worth and belonging. And it's also, people are told, they got to be, really tough or whatever. I mean, but you got to be yourself. I mean, I had a good friend, and his dad was 82nd Airborne in Nam. I mean, she never talked about until 10 years ago, and I knew him since we were little kids, but that he became a nuclear sub-inspector. I mean, that's crazy, but you don't know. And I mean, Isaac Newton, if he hadn't sat in his apartment, if you will, and worked on all the physics problems, that never would have happened if he was trying to be someone he wasn't. And
right.
I mean,
and he was a shut-in too. Like, he was all about mathematics and not about people.
Yeah, he wasn't really about people, and he really did he was very observant and able to put it together. Yeah. And as he said, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I think that's the other thing people remember is you're not able to do everything on your own. You need other people there to build up, and then you can expand upon that. But you got to take, journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Go with it. I love that. And find someone who find the one person who's an ideal to you. I mean, since we were martial artists, I think, the samurai always comes up, right? But people don't realize there was actually a gay sect of samurai.
Oh yeah. And
that's kind of crazy. And they were artists. The Romans and the Greeks were big on their soldiers having musical abilities too, and a lot of them were farmers, and then they were soldiers. Not all of them were professionals.
Hey, there's NFL players who listen to opera and do ballet. So I mean, it takes all kinds to make this world go around, and I totally agree that you never know till you talk to them, until you learn their story.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm a martial artist, but I was in orchestra in high school, and I loved it. I listened to heavy metal music too. That was what I'm known for. You ask somebody what they remember me about, and it's probably, I listened to, like Kicks or or Tesla. And
I'm a huge fan of Tool. I'll listen to Tool all day. I listen to Anima every night going to sleep.
Well, there you go. But I mean, with that said, I love opera. I mean, I think it's good to be well cultured, and it's also good to sometimes listen to people you don't agree with, because there's something there sometimes. Mm-hmm. But there again, you got to be careful, because I learned selling cars in a brief stint of that is nobody buys anything they're not sold. Mm-hmm. And we're not as independent thinking as we think we are. And that kind of bothers me sometimes.
And everybody has a story to tell. And so if you think that you can do everything on your own, you're not going to learn about this world unless you listen to the stories.
Yeah, young people need to reach out and get some instruction. And it's okay to get multiple. My one thing when I my brief stint kickboxing was I thought I could do it on my own. And if I'd had a coach, I probably could have went someplace special, and I didn't. Yeah. And that affects everything, because you don't have the guidance. You don't necessarily have all the tools you think you do.
I've got a good friend. He's a surfer, worldwide surfer, goes all over the place. And he said there's only one thing that you have to do. You have to get on the plane. You can't stand in the terminal and hope that you're going to get to Fiji. No, you have to take the initiative to get on the plane and go. Yeah. And that's living a life well lived, actually getting the experience and meeting the people and learning about other cultures. And that teaches you how to give back to yours.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that, and I'm going to say one thing in that regard is I always wanted to be an anthropologist, and I let people talk me out of that because there's no money in it. But as I got older, I realized I would have got to travel the world doing what I love, and in the end, you can't take that money with you.
Right. Yeah. That's a great pearl of wisdom right there. Any other little pearls of wisdom you want to part with here?
No, I think that you should always stand up for the weak if you can.
Yeah.
You know, try to help other people. I don't. I think that what builds me up is knowing that I've talked to someone that might have needed those encouraging words. You know, and I think that's the big thing. You don't know how you're going to lift someone else up. And I mean, I stopped to help people work on their cars on the side of the road. Whatever it is, you know, just give a hand, and it makes us all feel better. And when we do work for each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. Very nice. Okay. Well, it was nice of you to stop by. Where can people get a hold of you if they want to help you out with your campaign or just get to know you?
Craig4Montana@gmail.com.
Craig4Montana@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Craig, for stopping by, and this has been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
Helping other people is one of the most selfish things you can do, and giving back to your community is very self-serving. Why do I say that? Well, it's very easy. If you want to feel great about yourself, help somebody else. It's pretty simple. If you do good, you feel good. That's our show. Thanks for listening or watching. I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you did, click subscribe, click the like, and tell a friend. We'll be back on January 30th.